Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And once again, we have to cry about the Indian ignorance, the Indian stupidity, the Indian politics, the Indian seriously, how can we define it? Lack of civic sense, lack of etiquette, and then you understand once again why India is right now the most hated country in the world, or Indians are the most hated people in the world. That pathetic cricket match, which, remember, I told you a long time ago in one of my podcasts that I stopped watching cricket. The last cricket match that I ever watched was the one where India threatened Pakistan during the World Cup finals, saying that we will target Indian Muslims and especially Kashmir, occupied Kashmir, if Pakistan refuses to give the win to India, because this was Sachin Tendulkar's last match, and after that he was supposed to retire, and he didn't get any wins to his name or credit. And I remember very well the amount of, the bad sort of the bad air that was created by this. When, remember, Zardari, the then president, and Gilani, the then prime minister, they specifically personally went there and sat in the most prominent row, to literally remind the players by their presence that you have to lose this match, and there was a big hullabaloo about it, if anybody remembers. And I was like, okay, to me now it is dead. India has killed India has literally killed cricket for me. So, because remember, again, anything in which politics comes in, it's effed, right? So for me, cricket was effed that day. And since that day till date, I have never watched a cricket match. I know Pakistan won many T20 matches, they won finals and everything after that, yes. But I also know they lost a lot. And I also know that Pakistan has a very, I don't know about what people abroad, diehard cricket fans, especially in England, that I've talked to, they absolutely love Pakistan because they think that Pakistan is the most unpredictable team ever. But to us Pakistanis, especially to me, and I'm sure many of you out there, Pakistan is the most predictable team ever, because that they're going to be involved in match fixing. Because many a times our team has been involved in match fixing, either under threat or just to earn more money or whatever, as we know. It's always about money for them. For the cricketers, I'm sorry to say, but it's always about money. I think Imran Khan's team was probably the last or the second last team ever that really, worked their butts off, that were serious about it, that were serious about cricket. They were serious about earning a name for Pakistan in cricket, And after that, I guess we just had one other team, that really gave their all, and worked hard. But otherwise, we do know that we have a history of match fixing. We have a long history of that. So, that's another thing also. So, but again, the fact that India brought politics again and again and again into cricket, and it just ruined cricket for, I think, pretty much the whole world, always trying to remember the terrorist incidents that India actually committed in Pakistan just to stop Pakistan from hosting the World Cup. And remember how, India then started banning Pakistan team, and how, again, India just politicized cricket. So I don't watch cricket. And that is why I have a problem with our teams as well, as to why is it that you always want to play? Why is it that you always want to be friends? Why is it that you're always talking about peace? It's wasting your breath. Why are you wasting your breath on somebody that doesn't deserve it? I'm sorry, but the Indian team just proved that they don't even deserve it, because cricket is supposed to be a gentleman's game, but it's not. As we can see, thanks to India, it is not a gentleman's game. I'd rather watch hockey, and hockey is our national game, by the way, in case everybody forgot there. Hockey is our national sports, and I rather watch women's cricket who actually play with dignity. There's no politics involved, and we always end up winning most of the time. Same as with hockey. We're multiple time champions, So I don't see the deal here with cricket. To me, cricket is completely off anyway. So again, this stupid thing, that this pathetic press conference that was done by the Indian team, again, even if they won such a pathetic match in such a pathetic way, the whole match was pathetic by the count of it. I only saw the results because I had no choice, because the results were blaring at my screen. The results alone showed, it just told the whole story, that this was a pathetic match by two pathetic teams. I'm sorry, they were both equally pathetic in my opinion. And then worst, I mean, making things worse, the Indian team goes, first of all, they refuse a handshake, and then they go and they make such a big deal in their press conference that it's like, I think everybody all over the world is probably once again saying, see, this is why we hate Indians. Did you see their lack of etiquette here? Did you see their lack of sportsmanship? Did you see their lack of manners? Did you see their complete lack of civic sense? That they are literally turning a real war in which they were defeated very badly, in which people were killed, innocent people were killed. They are comparing that to cricket. That was the most stupid, pathetic thing ever. So they lost faces. Basically, India lost face. They may have won the game, but they lost their face. So put that aside. Now, here's another stupid Indian, you know, act, or let us say, or it just shows how stupid the Indian mind is. You've got these Indian analysts, just jumping like monkeys about the mutual defense agreement between Saudi and Pakistan. Oh, we thought Saudi was our friends. Like, in which world was Saudi supposed to be your friend? First of all, explain that to me. I mean, listen, you do realize that there is something called the Muslim Ummah. If you ever knew anything, and you would realize why the Western world has spent decades dividing and separating the Muslim Ummah and never allowing us to completely unite. There is a history there. Because this is the Islamic law under which we all are one state. Yes. It doesn't matter how many differences we have. We're literally different parts of one body as per Islamic law. So according to the Prophet, peace be upon him, the whole Muslim Ummah are one body. We're all different parts of one body. So if anything happens to one state, it is automatically happening to the other state. This agreement is nothing new. This agreement basically reconfirms what is already part of our universal Muslim state law. If that makes any sense to anyone who's not a Muslim. Because any Muslim, all Muslims, and you know it, right? And I know that you know what I know and what we're talking about here. So yeah, so this just jumping like monkeys up and down, oh, Saudi was our friend, how dare. Yeah, first of all, I think you're so stupid that you never even knew that Pakistan always had some sort of a defense strategy agreement going on with the whole Middle Eastern Gulf. How do you not even know that? We have done military exercises with the Middle Eastern Gulf. We have trained them. We have worked with them. Saudi has always depended on Pakistan for military training, in case you never knew that. We have trained even commercial pilots of the UAE. Where do you, what world are you living in? We literally sold our latest aircrafts to the UAE. This Emirates that you people are always talking about, whose aircraft do you think they're using? It's mostly sold by Pakistan to them. Albeit, again, there was corruption involved here because we were not supposed to be selling those aircrafts. But Zardari decided to sell it for scrap money. So the point is that with the Middle East and the Gulf, we have always had some sort of a defense agreement, always, in some form, some capacity or the other. We've had it for a long time. So this is just a reinforcement of, you can say, previous agreements. This is also reinforcement of, again, the umbrella law of Islam, which says that if one Muslim country is attacked, automatically another is assumed to be attacked, and you must respond in defense. Which is why, by the way, in case you've forgotten, which is why in the Muslim world, the Muslims are rebelling against their leaders for not coming forward and helping Palestine, because they have broken that very law. And in fact, for a long time, I've been calling the Middle East and Gulf extremely stupid, because remember, this is also something I've mentioned countless times on my podcasts, that when America claims that it's got an ally, you're not their ally. You're basically a base. They want to use you as their base to commit their atrocious acts against enemy parties. You're basically their henchman who's giving them your soil to do the dirty deeds, and they're going to make you do their dirty deeds as well. And Pakistan is all too aware of that, because we have been doing it. Not just Pakistan. Iraq was used. Pakistan's always been used till date, but Iraq was used and then discarded. And then, Algeria, Morocco, Afghanistan, South Korea. Have you forgotten South Korea? They also have an American base. Wherever there is an American base, it is not in that particular country's interest. In fact, it is against that particular country's interest. And that is why I'll remind you again, how many times have I said that this is one of the major reasons why Imran Khan was ousted, because he refused to allow America to set up a base in Pakistan. Remember? Yeah, they had a base in Pakistan. They were removed. They wanted their base again. Imran Khan refused, because he did not want Pakistan to be used by the Americans to wage war both in the region and against other Muslim countries. Now, here's the kicker. This agreement, which our government is trying to act as if it's their New Deal, no, this agreement was, again, already in place. This is one of the major things that Imran Khan was doing. Remember when he was gathering all the Muslim, how many times have I talked about this, about how Imran Khan was busy gathering all the Muslim countries, and he was smacking some shame into them, and he was trying to tell them to wake up, because he was reminding them that these American bases on their soil is actually to their detriment, and that it will be too late when they wake up and realize. And one of the reasons why I said that Saudi Arabia became extremely angry with this government of Pakistan was because they ousted Imran Khan at a very sensitive time. That was a time when alliances and allegiances were shifting. That is the time when Imran Khan had convinced Saudi Arabia to form a bloc with us. They convinced Saudi to get away from the American alliance, and to form a secure bloc here with us. And that is, again, why America ousted Imran Khan and put these minions in, and that peed Prince Salman, who's now king, I guess. It peed him off. If you remember, he was extremely angry with this government. China was extremely angry with this government and the army, because the bloc included Russia and China. Stakeholders were being suddenly disrupted and disturbed. And obviously, it's because it was deliberately done. Look at the timing. It was deliberately done. And so, yeah, don't talk to me about this agreement and dance like a monkey and saying, no. Again, this agreement is also nothing new. It is just a succession of all the many agreements coming into play, till date. And again, it is actually part of the agreement that was taking place between all the Middle Eastern and Gulf countries with Imran Khan when he was prime minister. And he was working really hard to bring in Turkey. He's the one who worked towards Iran and Saudi Arabia's friendship, which, as we know, he couldn't complete because he was ousted. But then, China stepped in and finished the whole thing, right? And so China got the credit for it. But actually, who did all the hard work? Who put them together? Imran Khan. So here we are. This is all the hard work of Imran Khan that is now being used and abused by this government, okay? First of all, understand that. Now, here's the concerning part again. When this government takes something that Imran Khan has worked so hard for and then they decide to pursue it, then that is where the concerning part begins. Because this government, as we know, is not at all here for Pakistan's national interest. This government serves American interest. So why would this government take this particular opportunity to work on what Imran Khan was already pursuing with the Gulf and the Middle Eastern countries? What are they doing by sealing the deal? What are they trying to do? That is a matter of concern for us because, as I said, Saudi may think, analysts, not Saudi, now here I'm coming, analysts may think that Saudi has no real danger from Israel. But remember, recently, in the recent years, the two sudden terrorist incidents that occurred in Saudi in the recent past years were done by Jews. Once Saudi allowed Jewish entry into Saudi, which remember before wasn't allowed, once they gave permit to the Jews to enter Saudi, that is when you had very conveniently two terrorist incidents that took place and were foiled. They were foiled, but they still took place. The attempts were partially successful, you could say. So, yes, Saudi does have, it does in the near future or in the far future, but it definitely does have danger from Israel. The whole Gulf region has danger, the whole Middle East. Again, this is the same thing that we've been all talking about, any of us who have eyes and ears and brains. We have all been protesting against the Saudi leaders and the Gulf leaders, the Middle Eastern leaders, for accepting the two-state theory of Palestine and Israel, and for conditionally, even conditionally accepting Israel's existence, which, as we know, Pakistan never accepted until this government has now come, which again worries us because this government is again not ours. This government literally belongs to Israel and America and the UK, and so they're following their agenda. In other words, they're not following any Pakistan's national interests. So when this government decides to pursue this agreement, then our major concern is this agreement for protection against Israel and America, or is this agreement a cover where they are, on the surface, it is protection against America and Israel, but on the inside, they're actually making that secret pact, which, as we know, was something that Pakistan resisted. Remember when Saudi always tried to drag Pakistan into the wars that were instigated by America in the Middle Eastern African regions, like in Syria or in Lebanon or in other places where America was heavily active, and America dragged Saudi in, and then, or Yemen especially. Let's talk about Yemen actually. It's a perfect example. So America was actually behind it, obviously, Israel and America, and then they dragged Saudi into it, and then Saudi, remember, tried to force Pakistan to be a part of it. It also did the same in with Syria especially. So, and we were all blaming Saudi. And remember, even that time I kept on and on saying that Saudi is actually not the mastermind. Saudi is a fool that is blindly being used by America to achieve its objectives, or by Israel, in other words, to achieve its objectives. And Saudi is a fool that it's actually going there and working against its own Muslim brothers, you know. And remember once again that there is a reason why the Saudi population have a problem with their government. Okay? On the inside, the Saudi population has always had a problem with this particular House of Saud, because to them, this is not their original royal family. This was planted by the British. And so they consider them as traitors because, again, look at them. Look at what the House of Saud is busy doing. They're constantly working against their Muslim countries, and they're constantly, having an alliance. They're allying themselves with the Western countries who are supposed to be, their enemies, basically. Because again, according to the Islamic law, any country that attacks any Muslim country is automatically your enemy. That is the context of the Quranic ayat, where God says that they can never be your allies and your confidants. The Jews and the Christians can never be your allies and your confidants. That is what God is telling you. So he's basically already told you where your political alliance should be. And when Muslim leaders deviate from that law, because it is a law, by the way. So when the Muslim leaders deviate from that Quranic law, and they take the Jews and the Christians as their confidants and their allies, and they work with them against their fellow Muslims, then they have committed a huge sin. Remember, I've talked about this, but I've also mentioned this a lot in my novels, in my political spy thriller novels, the Mist series. I've mentioned how the Western world literally worked its way into making Muslims on the defensive by making them, by creating this whole 9/11 charade and throwing it on the Muslims, which we all know was a false flag operation by the American government. Anybody who had the opportunity and the good fortune to have listened to the live news coverage when the 9/11 so-called attacks actually began, they would know what I'm talking about. At that time, the drones were actually identified as American owned. And they said that it was considered as an army exercise gone wrong. And then later on, they found out that no, this was a false flag operation. And then they found out that the buildings that fell were actually demolitions, because the crew that came out told them that this was actually a demolition, and yet they spun stories after stories after stories, and then they started drilling their false narrative into the Americans' brains, even though 67% of the Americans still believed that this was a false flag operation. That shows that common sense prevailed. So every year they drum on about 9/11 so that they should never allow people to question 9/11, when the whole world actually questioned 9/11, by the way. The whole world, the intelligence agencies, the ministers, the German minister at that time, who was actually an architect by qualification, everybody in the whole world, every government, every intelligence agencies, they questioned the 9/11 attacks, okay? So we know that the 9/11 attacks were a false flag operation, and the purpose that it had to serve two purposes. One, to strip the Muslims of their jihad narrative. Because remember, Israel was going to now completely engulf Palestine. Look at the timing of it. Just look at the timing now. And look at how shamelessly Israel has engulfed Palestine, how they have committed genocide after 9/11, and see how shamelessly America attacked Iraq under false narratives. And then they went and tried to attack Afghanistan, and they tried to occupy Afghanistan again under false narratives, and how they attacked Syria now, and how, with working with Israel, Britain and America have been strategically attacking all the Middle Eastern and African countries around the belt, right, for their Greater Israel, so-called Greater Israel conspiracy, right? But here we are now. We are here in that conveniently timed false flag operation, the aftermath of it. And again, the second thing that America achieved through that 9/11 charade was the Patriot Act, which again disrupted the whole global privacy law, because not only did America then disrupt its own privacy law while, inserting the Patriot Act, but it also started forcing other countries to cooperate with it. And that's how they started encroaching upon the privacy of other citizens of other countries, especially their so called Muslim allies. And this is why I keep on and on saying America does not have friends, America does not have allies. They just have henchmen or slaves that they need to use and abuse and then discard. So remember that this is also something I mentioned in one of my podcasts, that notice how every time a country comes up as, the best of the best in the lowest crime rate and lowest street crimes and everything, that is the next country is going to be attacked. And see, I just mentioned Qatar, and here we go. Qatar gets attacked. It's uncanny. It's uncanny. When we noticed that Syria made it at the top of the list, Syria got attacked. Qatar made it at the top of the list for a long time, but it stayed safe. Now suddenly Qatar is attacked. But now at least the Middle Eastern countries have now opened their eyes to the fact that their deviation from this Islamic law has consequences that now they're about to face. They have realized that they were living under this delusion, this la la land, where they thought that the American bases were there for their protection. Why did they even think that? I do not know. Because as I said, it is an obvious fact that wherever there are American bases, if your country has an American base, it means your country can anytime be in danger. An American base on any soil poses a threat to that soil, period. So why did the Middle East live under this illusion? I never even knew that they actually had this illusion, because to me it was very obvious that the Americans set their bases because when the British started planting their own choice of leadership in the Middle East regions, then one of the dealings that they had with them was that, to maintain control over these countries, the American bases would be set. And so the British and the French, they came and they exploited these regions with the Americans. They exploited their oil, they exploited their resources, and they had bases there. So why, who were you trying to fool the people? Maybe, okay, I think the governments thought that they were being over smart and over clever, and that they were fooling their own people by giving them that illusion. Because seriously, I don't think anybody should have even had that illusion that the Americans were setting up their bases for the protection of those countries, because it was, as I said, very obvious why they were setting up their bases. So if they were living under that stupid illusion, then thank you, at least you woke up. And I think the fact that Qatar's government made it very clear that they had no illusions, and that it was very clear to them that this whole thing was orchestrated by America, and that they were, then the fact that they were not even surprised, but they were actually angry, that shows that the Qatar government, actually the machinery of the Qatar government, they actually did know that the bases there are not for their protection. Now, why are they looking to Pakistan? Remember, Pakistan was the only country that could ever down Israeli jets in the past. Remember 1967. Pakistan was the only country that directly and actively, fulfilled that Islamic law of jihad, of it being incumbent upon a Muslim ruler to wage a defensive war against a country that has attacked your fellow Muslim country. And we were following that law, right? And the reason, again, as I said, one of the major reasons why this joint army task force of the OIC was made, in which our former army chief is, he's heading that task force. The basic reason why that was made, as the rumors were, is that it was basically made to save Saudi, because Saudi knows that if ever it comes under attack, it has made enemies with the whole Muslim world by not fulfilling its duties towards the Muslim world, especially as we see Palestine. Saudi being the sacred country to the whole Muslim world that it is, it it failed in its duties, to protect or to help or to speak up or to speak out, for its fellow Muslim countries. In fact, if anything, it worked with the enemy. It worked with America against its own Muslim countries. So the fear was that if Saudi ever came under attack by the very people, the very countries that it has right now formed an alliance with, then no Muslim country would come to its rescue except Pakistan, because Pakistan is a very emotional state when it comes to Saudi. Pakistan then thinks based on emotions. Pakistan thinks about the sacred mosque. Pakistan thinks about the Kaaba. Unlike other Muslim countries who have long learned to separate Saudi from the two sacred cities, in the sense that to them, the two sacred cities are something else entirely, and Saudi government, Saudi Arabia is something else entirely, and they would never come to Saudi's rescue. But to Pakistan, it is one and the same. Here's where the ideology differs. You understand? So, but as I said, the efforts that Imran Khan was making of pulling together all the Muslim countries, of especially waking the Middle East up, those efforts are what we see the result of today, when Qatar immediately woke up, when Qatar immediately knew what to do when Israel struck. So that is that hard work that was put in those past few years, of gathering them together and telling them that this can happen, this will happen, you are in imminent danger. They are not going to protect you. In fact, they are the ones that are going to come at you. And you need to wake up, and you need to work together, and you need to form a stronger union. And it was in that time when the joint task force was formed, and this and that. But again, as I said, so there was that hidden view that that task force was actually formed to save Saudi's ass, where if things get wrong, because the rest of the Muslim world will no longer care for Saudi at that point, because Saudi has done the Muslim world wrong. It didn't fulfill its duties. Similarly, this agreement, which on the surface seems like the sealing of the agreement that was in progress when Imran Khan was prime minister, on the inside, it is probably serving another purpose, a purpose that can actually go against Pakistan interests. And once again, it can go against the Muslim world's interests, because remember, this government, this army, their allegiance is with America, not with Pakistan. That means that if they are sealing this agreement with Saudi tomorrow, using that agreement, Saudi can force Pakistan to get involved in a war against other Muslim countries, and Pakistan will easily follow. That is one of the fears and concerns that a person like me would have, keeping in mind what our government and army have been doing till date. You've seen what they've been doing. They literally tried to go against their own allies. They tried to just now work up a fight with Afghanistan, which is against our policy. They tried to work up a fight against Iran, which is against our policy. They tried to work up, they actually canceled the whole Gwadar project with China, which is again against our interest. And then they signed an agreement with America that America can now take over and basically steal as much as it wants to out of our rare earth minerals, So there we have it. So the shift in alliances and the shift in friendships and the shift in policies, that is a clear marker as to where the government is steering us. So this government is basically going to act like the other Muslim leaders of other countries that have already been planted by the Western governments to serve their purposes. So this agreement actually can be very detrimental to Pakistan. So again, as I said, on the surface, India is panicking. The whole world thinks, oh, this agreement, this mutual agreement, oh, this is no. Have you seen America panic? Have you seen Israel panic? No. Because again, this government, this army, and the Saudi government, their allegiance lies with the Western world. It lies with America, it lies with Israel, it lies with the UK. So don't get your hopes up and think. But again, if this government manages to topple, if we manage to remove this government on time, right on time, and if we manage to bring back Imran Khan, then this agreement can again prove fruitful, because it depends on who is steering it, it depends on who's steering the ship here. So if it is this government, then I'm sorry, this agreement is not what you all think it is. No, it does not serve our interest, and it is definitely not serving the interest of the Muslim Ummah, contrary to popular fabricated narrative that is being given. But if Imran Khan comes back, then this agreement will serve the original agreement's purpose that was supposed to be in progress and in process, which would serve our interest. And then it would be a panic situation for America and for Israel. So this is what you need to see. It's not the agreement here. That is, this agreement is not what it's packed up to be, okay? What it's shown to be, what it appears to be. No, there are hidden layers here that cannot be deemed fruitful to us. So you should actually look at this agreement with concern. Again, as I said, the agreement is a double-edged sword. It can prove to serve our interests if the right person uses it, and it can prove to be detrimental if the wrong person uses it. And right now we have the wrong people at play here. So that is what you need to, and that once again shows the stupidity, the inherent stupidity of India, because Saudi can never defend Pakistan. Saudi is always at the mercy of countries like Pakistan when it comes to defense. I'm sorry, but it's a fact. It's a fact, and we have known this. We should have known this anyway, because I know it. I'm sure people know it. Anybody in their sane mind would know it, that for decades, Saudi's military is not strong. Saudi's military depends heavily on our military. Okay? It depends a lot on us for if it goes into an actual war or anything, its own military is not capable enough. So it needs us, okay, backing it. Saudi is pretty useless for us. I mean, if India seriously, we just fell all the rafales of India, and India still doesn't seem to come out of its cuckoo land. It doesn't seem to realize the fact that we don't need Saudi to help us with India, No, this agreement has nothing to do with any country helping us. This agreement is majorly about us being there for Saudi, which again, as I said, we've had many such multiple similar agreements in the past. This is just seen as a reinforcement. If you look at it this way, it is just a reinforcement of the many previous agreements that we've already had. Okay, the only reason that there's a big deal being made out of it is, again, for two reasons. It's just to sort of show the world that, okay, we are doing something about the Israel attack on Qatar. It's again creating this narrative that, oh, we're ready to give an answer now. But on the inside, it's a different story. So yeah, don't put your hopes up too high, and don't listen to the stupid Indian so-called analysts. Seriously, where do they even come from? Where do these people come from? Seriously. But again, I'll say, if you remove all the political, diplomatic ties, or aside, if you just put them aside, in the long run, the Muslim Ummah has to get together. There is no other way, and we all know it. The leaders who are constantly trying to deviate from that umbrella, they know it. They, for their worldly benefits, can try to deviate as much as they can, but the population of the Muslim countries have never once deviated from that law. So at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, whether these leaders like it or not, whether they even remain in their seats or not, but the Muslim Ummah has to come together, and it will come together, as we know. And how do we know? Because it is all written, it is all predicted. It is one of the milestones of, the end of the world. And this is the war. This war has been predicted. All the wars were predicted anyway, but this war has been predicted. This war has to come to pass. And in this war, the Muslims will have to come together. They will have to unite. And it is, in fact, for this purpose that the Western world has worked decades to divide the Muslim Ummah, and they have worked decades to plant leaderships in all these Muslim countries, to stop this exact thing from happening. But the truth is, they just cannot stop it, because there are some things that are written in stone and they have to happen, because it's all part of the divine grand design, and we can't do anything about it. And just like how the fact that Palestine has to go through this is part of the divine greater plan. We know that no matter how much we fight, no matter how much things, how much we try to stop it, it won't stop. This is what is going to be the build-up. This is what is going to finally get everybody together, and that massive war that's going to take place, which is going to, at the end, destroy the Western world. So the Western world also knows of this prediction, and they've been trying basically to do anything and everything possible that it doesn't come to pass that way, and that it comes to pass the way they want it to. But I'm sorry, as I said, man can plot and plot and plot and plan, but at the end, it is God's plans that actually come to pass, So here we are. This is bound to happen. The Muslim world will have to get together, no matter what plans or conspiracies or designs you try. And that war will happen, and it will be detrimental to the Western world. And the Western world started it, so, the onus is on you, really. I don't know what you were thinking, really. So, yeah, that is going to happen. But right now, where this particular agreement is concerned, yeah, it's not what you people are making it out to be. As long as this government and this army is in place making the agreement, yeah, it's not what you all are making it out to be. This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.